Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, late night lessons learned in the desert as the Red Raiders Spirit Walk goes belly up.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. Thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So check it out at FanDuel.com with the only Chris Level. I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, welcome back to West Texas. Welcome back to God's country with an opportunity to start a new streak. And that's the way that I'll phrase this after the Red Raiders unfortunately fall on the road in Tucson, Arizona. Chris there for the call, and we'll get into what we saw go down 82-73, the final score, and certainly want to give Tech some credit for hanging tough at various points. Chris, I'm thinking, all right, here we go. They're about to blow the game open, and they'll sort of put us to bed here. And the Red Raiders kept hanging around, obviously. In the final few minutes, Arizona able to knock down some free throws and things and kind of stretch the margin out there. But some credit for a tough fight from Tech, but was not enough. And a lot of credit for Arizona and getting some revenge and keeping their winning ways going after they took a loss earlier in the year against the Red Raiders. So we'll get into some of what we learned within this ball game. We'll talk about what's upcoming for Texas Tech. Want to discuss the Red Raider rotation as it stands right now with you as well, Chris. But in general, curious to hear your thoughts regarding the trip to Tucson. First collision as Big 12 colleagues in Tucson between the Red Raiders and Wildcats.
Yeah, and the old football matchup earlier in the or back in the fall was kind to you. Also, a long day and into the morning. That particular situation, but it ended well. You came out with a win at I don't know, that was like 1 or 2 in the morning Central Time on a Sunday. And from the football standpoint, you didn't quite make it that late this go around, but this was just like the basketball game that would never begin. We had it was the holy trilogy of delays here. We had earlier in the week, it's like, hey, ESPN, and we've got all these NBA trades. We're going to try to showcase this NBA games. We're going to adjust all these things, and we're going to move this thing back 30 minutes. So there was that. Originally supposed to be 9, then 9:30, and then we show up and get close to game time, and they come out and they go, hey man, 5-minute slide. We're pushing back tip for 5 minutes because the game before is going long and all that stuff, and I'm like, hey man, just keep pouring it on, man. Keep waiting me, making me wait. That's fine. And then we're going out to midcourt, and it's like I see all these flashing lights and there's sirens. I thought it was actually in-house PA, like Tech plays something similar, like
right.
Like all these. It's like part of the entertainment. Like, oh, look out, a storm is coming or whatever. It was like these people tried to set their own building on fire because you do the flames before tip off, but it's like, and then it stops. These people just kept these flame cannons just going, and it set off the fire alarms at the McHale Center. Whatever.
And I know you're a big pyro guy, Chris, but were you a little nervous? Were you growing a little nervous or enjoying the show?
I like that. That was just straight fire. I like pomp and circumstance with my pyro. If you want sound and some color and some bang bang, some flash or whatever, but this was just like straight fire. And I mean, I look over and people are like sweating because it was straight heat. Like I'm, and it was like 80 degrees outside. Anyways, this was the game that would never begin.
What kind of operation are you guys running out there?
I'm like, don't y'all know that if you just leave the fire on, it's gonna and this is an old building, mind you.
Right.
I will say that as I've ventured out with in the Pac-12 areas, right, facilities not been on their mind for compared to what you're dealing with. You are you're in rare air, I guess, as far as facilities in the Big 12, but especially compared to the Pac-12 schools.
Yeah, they got some catching up to do.
Absolutely, and the McHale Center is great, and it's got a lot of tradition, and it's pretty big. It's not as big as your building, but it's just old. The guts of it, whatever, it's just old, and all that. But okay, so Arizona is good. I mean, that's all there is to it. They had revenge on their mind. You kind of. I was worried about this where, you had just been rolling. They had started rolling. They've gotten a lot better, I think, since you played them the first time. They figured a few different things out, and you have too. But it was revenge is real. And what I mean by that is it's pretty clear that, Tommy Lloyd is a really good coach. And I mean, he's the number of wins he's had in like his short stint in Arizona is pretty impressive. Now, yeah, they're going to at some point to, okay, you need to do more in March Madness and all these things, but he's put together some big time, 27, 28, 31 season type stuff. But he kind of had his guys tuned up. He kind of challenged his guys based on what went on in Lubbock, 3 weeks ago on January the 18th. Specifically, Henry Vasar, who was held scoreless and I think got punked that day. I think he got worked, and he's too good of a player, I guess, according to his head coach, to get worked like that. And so he came out and he had some edge and had a purpose, and you didn't handle it well.
He was motivated.
Yeah, and Tobe Iwaka, same thing. But those guys combined for like 28 and 19, and they were just a handful. And you poor JT, I think it was JT Toppin, who had a monster game against these guys the first time, and again a good game over the weekend. He didn't have near enough help inside, and that's unfortunate because. And we'll get to kind of what all happened to you, but that's really where this game kind of changed. You could just tell they had something different to them, and you hung in there. And I think you learned a lot about your team because you kept punching back for a while, but then you just kind of ran out of gas a little bit, Casey.
Yeah, man. Just watching the game, and anytime watching the game progress with what they were able to do near the rim and some of the size and physicality that they're able to bring to the table, that even on some of your best days, I think you're still punching up in that area. And those things kind of feel like, I don't know, as the game progressed, to me, it kind of felt like a football team controlling the fourth quarter with a punishing ground game. And you're like, it's only a matter of time. It's really just only a matter of time. And obviously that's not perfected science. So anything could happen and maybe you pull one out. But when you're able to do that to a team physically, it's just kind of disheartening as far as sort of making you bend to their will. So, again, credit Tech for their fight, but credit Arizona for being the kind of team they are and what they've assembled as far as that roster goes, because some of that's going to show up, I do think, in March for the Wildcats. But we'll see. And I do think, Chris, from an environment standpoint, I don't know what it's like. I'm curious to hear from your chair what it felt like, but came through on television as one that was also amped up. The folks in the bleachers, I think, were excited to be there as well. It sounded like a great environment.
Yeah, and it was. I don't think that rattled your kids at all. I think it was there. I think that it is one of the more impressive environments in the league, and this is why adding them to the Big 12 from a basketball standpoint was such a big deal, because they do have. It's not as much tradition as I think their fan base would have you truly believe, because there's some arrogance there. I even saw one of their beat writers that I respect going, man, I long for the day where Arizona fans can admit that the other team is actually pretty good. So there's a little
too. I didn't understand the context of that. That was from
there's a lot of Arizona fans that I think just kind of they take a page from the KU fan base fan book, or like playbook, where fan book. What is that? Playbook. I'm on a little to no sleep here. To where they just kind of you guys are just beneath us. Not everybody.
Yeah, sure. But it's never about the other team. It's always about
They've been to 4 Final Fours and they've won 1 national championship. Again, great, but it doesn't even come close to what some of the other Blue Bloods. Okay, and I'm not. I'm not here trying to diminish Arizona. I'm just saying but it was a big deal to add their brand and add their basketball program to the Big 12. And this was why I said on the broadcast, I'm like, you're in the middle of why this was such a big deal. Like you got dropped in the deep end of the pool, like right now. Like this is what national television, meaningful conference game, and here you are, and you're getting Arizona's best shot, is sold out crowd. I mean, the whole thing. And
do you think I was just kind of spitballing this as we're talking, like Arizona basketball and BYU's fan base? Those are like the two most additive things to the Big 12 conference over these last two rounds, like those two specific kind of entities. I don't know, maybe Utah football, but I'm not sure they really compare. I don't know.
Yeah, you could argue.
That's a totally different conversation, but I was just curious.
Yeah, you could argue Arizona State football all of a sudden now. I mean, like they seem to, but that's
coming into
money. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think that's probably fair. From a when you look at it, the way Brett Yormark or the way that the folks in charge, like meeting with the TV partners, would look at it from a standpoint. I think you hit on it well, and I guess. Again, some of this is all new and maybe short-lived, but like Arizona State football, Colorado football.
Deion. Got to mention Deion.
But Arizona, it doesn't matter. Those are specific to coaches or maybe short, could be short-lived, but like Arizona basketball has had some tradition here that Lute Olson and Sean Miller and now Tommy Lloyd and all that. But anyway, it's a great environment. It's not the best I've been in. I don't know if I compare it to anything like what they do in Lawrence or what they do like in Ames when those are at their best, or even what you do. I think your crowd can be way more juiced up, and it's a bit bigger, and Kansas has got a bigger crowd. I think we kind of talked about it on the broadcast. It was very similar to the size and like the age of the building and all that is similar to Iowa State. And so anyway, but it was it was tough to play in, but I think that their team and their motivated team was the biggest challenge there, and you didn't handle it very well.
You mentioned learning things as a result of this experience. So let's get into the lessons of Saturday night. First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. And when the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. And FanDuel's live betting feature electrifies every moment, whether backing your team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch shot. You're never going to miss your chance to get in on the action. Plus, the app, easy to use. And when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet hits. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. And make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So let's get into the lessons of Saturday night. What's on your list, or what stands out to you?
Well, I think that you learn. I don't want to use the word, because Grant and I talked about this after the game was over. You were exposed a bit, and it wasn't like, oh no, like, okay, yeah, we've been found out. Like, oh. It was more like, yeah, I mean, you kind of knew some of these things, and Grant's point was, let's lean into it. And what I mean by that is you got bullied, you got punked a little bit, and you got pushed and shoved, and you pushed back most of the night, and you certainly a week ago in Houston pushed back all game long, and you kept throwing haymakers and all those things. But this team, they tried to punk you and push you. They tried to talk smack to you. They tried to intimidate you, all these things. And I think that some of your guys didn't handle it very well. And I think that needs to change. I hope that they feel challenged. I hope that they decide to big picture push back. But what it tells you is that you need some more here. If you're ultimately going to contend, like truly contend for this conference championship, and you have just 8 conference games left, without much margin for error at all. Just so we're clear, I mean, you are 2 games behind in the standings. Not only do you not have much margin for error, you're going to need other folks to kind of come back to the pack a bit because you only have 1 game left with the Houston Arizona group ahead of you by 2 games. You're going to have some of these folks come along here. But I did learn. I do think you're really good. I mean, I thought, because this is what I'm seeing play out. You are dropped into an unbelievable environment. You've waited around all day. This is Arizona at their best. They are motivated. They've got revenge on the mind. They are at the top of the standings. They are at home. I mean, they had everything there, and yet you kept like kind of with some of these threes or coming these little mini runs and all that. And the score is a little bit more lopsided than I think reality. There were some free throws at the end, and
kind of like the first game.
Yes, and I told Grant this. I'm like, you know what? I feel like you guys just played the same game with the roles just reversed.
Sort of.
I mean, that's exactly what it felt like. The rebounding margin was flipped.
Yep.
I think at the tail end they just kind of outlasted you like you did them, but it was really tight up until about 5 minutes to go, and so that's the point. But I think I said on the broadcast, I'm like, I feel like I'm learning a lot about your team right now, regardless of the result, and I think it's all good. Now there's some issues there, but I think some of the ability to just not get rattled, to keep hitting big shots. You just got so many different guys that can do it. Because this is they clearly went into this one saying, Chance McMillan, no, sir, not tonight. I mean, Caleb Love, face guard. He's not a great defender at all. He talks a lot of smack, and he's got he did some things at the end of the game, I think, that drew the old Tech fan base off sides a bit. He just kind of he got caught talking to Grant McCaslin a bit, and Marcus Pettigrew, a very good official in this league, came over and was like, hey, dude, don't talk to the other coach. And he's like, oh man, we're cool. He's like, I don't care. Don't talk to the other coach. And then he like reaches out and gives high five to Grant. But he's running his mouth a lot. He's not a great defender, but so they just basically use him and try to face guard Chance McMillan whenever he's in there. Like, not tonight. You're not getting a touch, all that. But you still had enough guys. Like, we need to talk about Christian Anderson some. And I think JT Toppin, one of his harder games, but still produced, and then D5 looked tired at times, but he still had some big time shots. But I just think you kind of collectively ran out of gas a bit. You've been in a gauntlet. This little 3-game stretch you had, it's taken a lot out of you. But maybe that's where we kind of transition next. Is you need more help.
Yes.
You need more help, or you're not going to get to where you ultimately want to go. You're leaning on some of the same pieces, and they're tired. Like they're tired, and they need help right now.
Yeah, no doubt. That's what I was going to get into, because I really thought, like, from a team standpoint, watching the game as you went on, you were looking tired collectively. And after the game concludes and I'm able to kind of look at the numbers and I'm looking at minutes and I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, there's an obvious answer as to why you may be a little gassed, even regardless of what's happened prior to this bowl game. But I don't know. I guess maybe we are finding out. I may be too quick to say this, but are we finding out that certainly the rotation is a little shallower than we thought weeks or months ago, or is it just case by case? What do you make of that?
It's a glimpse. I go back to how deep you felt versus Houston, because like versus in this game versus Arizona, the glaring issue is, okay, Chance is a bit off, but Christian Anderson kind of makes up for it, and then some. He just had an unbelievable game. Kid is just so good, so wise beyond his years with his level of play and his IQ and just the moments, and he's just gotten better and better to where he's playing 35, 34 minutes. I mean, on the biggest of stages, right? As a true freshman. It's great. But the glaring weakness is you have the trio of Kerwin Walton, Kevin Overton, and Federico play a combined 28 minutes total. They record all of no points and no rebounds, and I think 1 turnover. Just a non-factor. and you're already playing, just with 8, and you've had some ankle issues, you've had some guys being sick, you've had all this and that, but you played Arizona with 5 dudes basically, and that's just not enough. But I go back to, a week ago, Kerwin provided you some big time minutes and shots and all those things. So I guess my point of what we're learning about our rotation is, or what the statement would be is, to win and win big, which you're going to get another crack at Houston. You're going to have to go to Kansas. You've got some tricky road games coming up, and we'll get into all that. But you need some of these guys to respond to a goose egg here. You need some of these guys to help and be a part of you starting another streak, to your point, because this can't be the norm. It can't be, or you're not going to get to where you want to go. If you have officially run out of gas, which I do not believe in any way, and I'm thankful that you play on Wednesday this week as opposed to like a Monday or a Tuesday, or I would really be worried, because you just look a bit like you're redlining it, like you're on empty, and some of that group has just got to be a part of you winning and helping and providing quality minutes and carrying the load on offense, or doing their thing. And we've seen glimpses from all of them, Overton and Federico certainly, and Kerwin, but this was just a night where collectively they just didn't help you much at all. And I'm sure they know that, but that's why I'm saying, like, this needs to be leaned into. They need to respond, and I think they will.
Before we wrap it up, Chris, I did want to look ahead a little bit with you, because this is one of the more interesting stretches, I think, of the season. Competitively speaking, what you have coming up does not represent the best of the best in the league, but you're doing some work away from home. And of course, you mentioned Houston looming, coming back to the LBK not too far from now, but it's Arizona State and Lubbock. And then you've got 2 straight away from home, Oklahoma State and Texas Christian, and then West Virginia and Houston visit you in back-to-back outings. And that is what gets us through the month of February before you open up in Lawrence, Kansas in March. But this is, I don't really know how I feel about it. Hey, let's go ahead and win another 7 or 8 straight. That'd be great, guys, if you don't mind. And I know, just head up, as far as the matchup goes, you feel optimistic. And I guess I got to feel that way about still your road recipe as well. But you're getting later in the season. The gas tank is getting lower, as we're kind of talking about a moment ago. And, any rando trip to Stillwater or Fort Worth here or there could certainly bite you in the butt, man. So it's an interesting little stretch you got coming up to run through February.
Yeah, anything, if you have any kind of hope to actually contend for a conference championship, you must play Houston on, what will it be, 2 weeks from today, I guess it is, having won 4 in a row.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. I don't think there's the math is just, unless everybody just, the wheels start falling off. Now, Arizona is about to begin an interesting stretch of their schedule. They may, and then, Houston obviously is, Colorado took them to the brink, and Colorado is winless in this league, but they keep getting right there to the end. They just don't have enough to get over the hump at the end. Okay, so But you're right. The schedule opens up for you, because we looked at this little 3-game stretch that you've just now finished ahead of time and going, okay, oof. Because I'm thinking in the back of my mind with this 3-game stretch, and it was at Houston, home to Baylor, at Arizona. And you're like, okay, 2 of those 3 on the road. These are 3 teams that are trending up and the whole deal. You're like, okay, at the minimum, you got to win at least 1. If you can get 2, and you did, and you got 2, and so I think that you survived it. But I do think it took something out of you. It's just, that's the fun part about playing in this league, is you play big time games, and it's physical. And when you're leaning on a few guys, it's the way it works. Now the schedule does open up a little bit, but it's tricky.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, you don't what? Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I don't know, you kind of get into some of these matchups the second time around, and certainly like we just saw with Arizona, thinking about facing a team again. And I don't know how to predict necessarily how something will flow when you get into a second meeting within a season. And it's not that way with everybody, obviously, but an Oklahoma State or Texas Christian. You're going to double up still with Arizona State. You got left here before the season will be all said and done. Do you think that is it kind of like I know we'll talk about, say, you get into a conference tournament or you get into the postseason, whether it's basketball or whatever other sport. You're like, man, it's hard to beat a team this many times. It's usually like maybe 3 or something like that. But from typically in your experience, Big 12 basketball over the years, matchup 1 to matchup 2, I mean, how much can things change? And say just Oklahoma State as an example, that was quite a finish to that game, quite an interesting finish. And now you're going to get them coming back around again. I don't know. What's it like from round 1 to round 2 typically?
Teams change. I mean, they get better or get worse, or it's a different version of the team based on who's healthy or if there's an injury. And in some ways, like you have teams kind of their care factor drops. Too.
Yeah, that can change.
And that's you would love for that to be the case with like an Oklahoma State and a TCU or an Arizona State that you've got coming up. Like, hey man, y'all don't have any hope. You know what? So mail it in tonight. Go ahead and make it easy on us. I mean, you'll get some of that, but you also get the whole, hey man, we have nothing to lose. Like, screw it. Let's play hard, because there's gonna be some upsets or some interesting results down the stretch in this deal. There just is. That's the sport. And you show up flat one day and you show up and you don't have it, or it's in a fairly empty gym and you feel like you're just going to kind of get through it and all that. It won't work out for you. And that's where you kind of find your position in having to fight some of that. You'll need your home crowd in a lot of these games just to provide you with what they can give you. And I'm hopeful that your next 2 road games, I will say this, and we need to keep hammering on this, you will be, if you're a Tech fan in the Metroplex, you will be able to get tickets to that TCU game. If you want to make a day trip and if you live in the Metroplex and drive up to Stillwater that morning and be home that night, you will be able to get into the arena there in Stillwater. There are plenty of tickets available, and I kind of would hope that your fans take over or do their part in these buildings, because your team will need it. I think. And, but yeah, coaches will adjust and they'll learn from their previous matchup and like, hey, what worked, what didn't. Hey, we got them on this, but let's tweak it. I mean, there's all the psychology, and like Tommy Lloyd did with Henry Vasar, and he said it after the game, hey, Henry got punked, in Lubbock, and we tuned him up. We challenged him, and they had him all frothing at the mouth and all that, and he played like it, and it was like, and you didn't handle that well. Arizona is a different example because they are legit. This is one of the most they look the part. These are all highly recruited guys and all that and everything. Oklahoma State, TCU, not near as much, but yeah. So I don't know if you'll get like some revenge game or anything like that, but it's still no less tricky.
No, man. Got to be wary, certainly. And
Arizona State's first. Yeah, we got to worry about the old Bobby Hurley, who will be an angry elf coming into the
that's right,
the arena on Wednesday.
Yeah, interesting cast of characters you got. I was thinking this weekend watching some Big 12 games as far as head coaches. It already was, but you've added some more interesting characters to the league. And I just enjoy visiting with you, so I allowed you to go on. I wanted to talk a little bit more, a little bit longer, Chris, but we could have just shut it down when you said you need to play Houston on a 4-game winning streak, period. That's
the end.
Mission objective. We need to cook for 4 straight and then welcome the Cougars back around with an opportunity for a season sweep. So looking ahead to these opportunities and feeling optimistic, but man, never know what can happen in the Big 12 conference. So should be interesting. A couple days till we get back around to the next one. So looking forward to that as the Red Raiders will host Arizona State. Chris, appreciate the time, man. Hope you can catch up on some rest. It's going to be a wild and woolly week as always. And we'll see you for the next one.
Yeah, man. Big one on Wednesday night, obviously with the Sun Devils in town. But again, make your plans for those next 2 roadies if you're in the Metroplex or surrounding area, because again, you would have access to be able to get in there. So yeah, just start thinking about that if you're a follower of this show or the basketball team. But hey, man, enjoyed it. We'll be here all week, and guns up, everybody. Fun time of year for sure.
Road Raiders have been a for real movement. So hopefully that will continue as we roll through the rest of this season. Thanks as always for being out there, and shout out to the everydayers for always riding along. Shout out to the Matador Mob as well. If you want to be one of those Matador Mob insiders, hit the show notes, find a link to a free 14-day trial. That's your direct line to Chris and myself with a one-on-one text, and it's straight to your phone. For Chris, I'm Casey. Thanks as always for the time, and we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.